Hear that? Believe it or not, summer is just around the corner. Luckily, Armor All, America's most trusted auto appearance brand, has what your car needs to get that perfect summer shine. Plus, now through May 31st, we'll give you $5 for every $20 you spend on Armor All products. That means car wash pods, protectant, tire shine, you name it. Find out how to get your $5 rebate at armorall.com. Armor All, less work, more clean. Terms apply.
Today on CityCast Houston, we've all heard the scary stories about road rage on H-Town roads, but just how bad has it gotten? First, Fox 26 News anchor Rashi Vats joins me to talk about the sharp rise in road rage incidents in our city. And then Francisca Hernandez of Breathe, Connect, Thrive is here to show us how to calm our minds in heated situations. And after both interviews, Christopher Larson, CEO of Downtown Houston Plus, will be joining us for a conversation about the ongoing evolution and expansion of Downtown Houston, sponsored by Downtown Houston Plus. So make sure you stick around. It's going to be fun. It's Monday, May 6th. I'm Raheel Ramzanali, and here's what Houston's talking about. Rashi, welcome into CityCast Houston. How are you?
I'm good. This is actually my first podcast. Can you believe it?
What?
And I'm like,
there's no way. Come on.
Yes.
Hey.
I'm so excited.
I'm so excited to have you on, and we're honored that CityCast Houston is your first podcast interview. So we're going to be talking about some serious subjects, right, regarding road rage. But before we start, have you ever been a victim of road rage? Or if you want to out yourself, have you ever gotten mad at somebody and committed some road rage?
You know, I'm on this like Jay Shady quest of like being mindful and, peace within myself. I have to tell you, like, every single day, my commute's about 25, 30 minutes, and I work the night shift. So I'm on the road at night, and I experience people with road rage all the time. It's crazy, but I have to just take a deep breath and remind myself, it's not me, it's them. Something is wrong with them internally. They're either rushed or, something like that has kind of irked them, and they're taking it out on someone else. Yep. And so anyway, I think everybody that has driven on the Houston roads knows that it's intimidating and it's scary, and people out there can drive really nuts, for sure.
For sure. And it's just, I wish we all had a little bit more empathy, right? Because that might help. But, Rashi, sometimes when you just when people cut me off, especially at that 527 spur, boy, I start honking.
Or like the 610 to 59, when people cut, I'm like, hold up.
Yeah.
We are not doing this right now.
No.
And then I don't let them go. And then the person behind me let them go. And I'm like, what? We are all in this united.
Yes, we are. We got to stop the cutters. That's a big thing.
We do.
So
sure.
We all saw the headlines. I saw your story as well regarding road rage and the numbers, right? It's getting bad in Houston. In fact, we were named the worst city for road rage when it comes to shootings. Explain these numbers to me real quickly.
It's really, really bad. Before I started anchoring and before I started reporting, I also did traffic, which was actually really funny because I didn't know anything except for like the part of Houston that I grew up in. But when I saw the information, specifically Houston leading the nation in road rage shootings. I mean, we're talking about shootings. It's not just acts. I think that was really astonishing to so many people, which is why it got the attention for so many news outlets as well. And you too.
So what were the numbers showing?
So the numbers came from The Trace, which is actually a nonprofit news outlet using data from the Gun Violence Archive. And it shows that the number of incidents in Houston from 2014 to 2023. So we are looking at a 9-year time period, but it shows there were 215 incidents when it comes to road rage shootings, like with a gun.
Wow.
192 shootings in Houston. Victims were at 207. What's the most astonishing thing about this, if you even think this is low in numbers, is the next city that is on the list, we have twice as many incidents and victims as they do. So we are like way up there, and it's a statistic you don't want to be a part of, obviously. And a lot of it is attributed to also more people on the roadways, people being more rushed. Our construction is crazy. Yeah. So, it's not an excuse, but these are all factors that play into it. The other thing that was interesting is Consumer Affairs saying that the top 3 reasons why people do have road rage is because they're speeding on the highway, tailgating, and there's honking or some type of gestures. And we've all seen it also.
Yeah, so like those factors do make sense, right? There's just a lot more people on the road. And
Mm-hmm.
yes, there's more traffic, there's construction, the heat levels, I'm sure that plays into it.
Right.
We're all running late. Like there's so many different factors. But why do you think it's gotten so bad over the last few years? Because it just seems like every single day there's a new story regarding road rage.
Well, I will say that I think a lot of it is people using their phones, being on their phones. Like, if you think about it, we don't allow ourselves to be bored. Like, even when we're on a signal light, we check on something or we're looking at something. And I think that people are becoming more impatient. In our industry, their attention span is lower. So that's why we have to get things out faster, more concise, and be more appealing to people. So with those factors in mind, plus just people's lives getting busier and busier, we can relate. Our lives have just gotten busier every week. It seems like there's something else being thrown there. So, and the other thing, Raheel, that is really sad is the fact that sometimes the road rage is accidental. Someone hasn't done anything, but there's just someone angry trying to shoot at someone. And I did speak with Paul Castro. His son was killed after an Astros game in 2021. He was 17 years old. And now he's an advocate. And he was saying how there are so many cases that are unsolved, that the person is killed and they didn't do anything according to cameras and whatever captured the incident. But the person hasn't been found. So there's no closure. And it's just senseless. All of it is senseless and preventable.
It really is. With us leading the nation in road rage shootings, is there any connection there with our gun laws that play a role into this, you think?
Well, I had Paul Castro live in our newscast and I asked him what changes have been made. The issue seems to be just how challenging it is to get any resolution at the government level. So he says not many changes have been made. I know this goes more into politics, but even when we see school shootings, always talking about thoughts and prayers, it keeps happening. And just getting legislation, because he's now an advocate. He's made his pain, turned it into purpose. And he's also a superintendent for local charter schools. I mean, he has a full-time job as well, but doing this. And I think it's just so inspiring to see what he's doing, despite the recent trauma he has gone through and continues to go through. But it's sad also that changes haven't been made out of his control because of various reasons.
Yeah, it's just absolutely sad. And it was so hard to watch that interview, as I was not only watching the news, but also prepping for this show. It was just so hard. But, it's one of those things where I think we all have to remind ourselves that, yeah, it can just randomly happen, right? But for the most part, we can also de-escalate. And we're going to be learning about some de-escalation tips later on in this episode. But in your opinion, what can listeners do to, just get out of these situations?
I think just taking a deep breath work is like something personally that I've been doing, but even with when I'm reading the news. And I would say that it affects me a little bit more because I'm a parent now. And when you talk about these child abusers and all this stuff, it's like gets you so worked up and angry. And it's like you have to keep taking deep breaths and just zooming out of the situation. There was a time where I was with both my children in the back seat. I was trying to change lanes. I didn't even do anything wrong. And this guy rolled down his window and made this gun gesture. And I was so freaked out and I didn't know what to do. I kind of froze and my kids were like, what happened? What was he doing? What was he doing? I was like, oh, he was just kind of waving because you're trying to neutralize the situation. Yeah. And I just slowed down, let the guy do whatever. Even when I'm going home, I stay on the right lane because if you want to zip past me, go ahead. I'm just trying to get home safe. And I think that that's it. You have to let your ego go. And that has helped me, especially because I travel so much on the roadways.
One last thing before I let you go. And this is more of, I guess, a monologue by me. But yes, there's so many things that we could do, right? We can de-escalate. We can plan ahead, right? We can pick up some habits that might not lead to road rage. But at the end of the day, it comes down to policing as well. Like we need to catch these people. We need to have more law enforcement out there on the roads to stop these situations. And that might be hard to do, right? Like there's so many of us on the road and
Right.
there's so many few officers across the greater Houston area. But I wonder if just having more police presence would help too.
I think that's sort of the answer for a lot of things. The reality is we don't have that many resources. I'm saying, even speaking with the chief or police officers, deputies, and all of that. I think what Paul Castro is trying to do is make the punishment more severe. There's no tickets and, a misdemeanor or whatever the case may be to deter people from doing something like this, because this is serious stuff. And if we're letting people go who have an AK-47 or who made the gesture but didn't pull the trigger or missed the person. So if the person missed while wanting to shoot, that was still intent to shoot.
Yeah.
Without giving, too much of my opinion, I think that's a pretty serious crime as well. You have a gun. You could have potentially injured someone. Just because you didn't do it doesn't mean you shouldn't be punished.
Rashi, thank you so much for joining us and keep up the great work.
Oh, thank you, Raheel. And I'm so proud of you for starting this podcast. This is awesome. And just keep on killing it.
Thank you so much. All right, so we heard about what's happening on the roads, and yes, it's getting crazy out there, but now we're going to try dealing with some of this and give you some tips and some tricks to help with some road rage. Now, before we get started with this portion of the episode, I do want to say that if you feel like you're in danger, please call 911 ASAP. We're going to be working on de-escalation, but again, if you are in danger, you feel like something bad is going to happen, please call the authorities so they can get you help and go from there. Now, let's talk about some de-escalation. So Francisca is joining me, and we heard about how bad road rage is on our roadways. So I really want to provide some tools for all of the listeners who find themselves getting super worked up on the roads. If you're getting cut off, if somebody is going too fast or they're on their phones and you find yourself getting really angry, what can we do, Francisca, to calm ourselves down?
Yeah. Living in Houston, it's such a huge city with so many medical centers, and we've got a lot of construction going on, and it seems like there's traffic like 24/7. So it's understandable that we can get worked up in traffic, and I'm happy to help talk about some things that can help you de-escalate in a traffic situation. I would say the first thing that you want to do is stop. Just stop. It's an acronym, right? S stands for stop.
Okay.
T stands for take a breath. O stands for observe. And P stands for either plan or proceed. I think that's the first bit of advice I'm going to give your listeners here at CityCast.
Okay, great. So we do the stop method, and now let's put a plan in place, right? You specialize in breath work. So if we find ourselves getting upset at somebody, cutting us off, again, like I mentioned, that's like the number one thing. Can you help us with like some breath work that could calm us down in that moment?
100%. 100%. It starts before we get on the road, right? But if we're in the middle of something and perhaps we're even in a medical emergency ourselves, you never know. Somebody may be driving somebody to the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
And so, rage is something that takes us out of who we are. It leads to a loss of self-control. So the first thing you want to do is get calm-headed, focus, and get some clarity in. And the best way to do that is to focus on extending your exhales. If you don't remember anything else about what I say, please remember to extend your exhales. The exhales are what calm. Taking a deep breath is great, but inhaling is what actually excites the body, and exhales are what calm the body.
All right, so let's do it. Let's practice one together. We're in the car. All right, I'm listening to the podcast and I hear this and I'm like, okay, I'm going to practice right now. So next time I find myself getting mad at somebody, here's what I do. Go ahead, Francisca.
Yeah. So first thing you want to do is inhale for a count of 4. So in through the nose. And then exhale for a count of 6. So exhale. So, and then you want to repeat that. So in, 2, 3, 4, out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Okay.
In, 2, 3, 4, and then out through the mouth, 4, 5, 6. You want to repeat that at least 3 times before you go back to the situation or the honking or whatever. How did you feel?
I feel calmer. I feel better already. It works.
Yeah, if you still find yourself worked up, then the other thing that you can do is extend the exhales even longer.
Okay.
I really like to do a double breath or even a triple breath, which is in for a count of 4, out for a count of 8, or in for a count of 4, out for a count of 12. And that's really helpful to really get you calm, focused, and, centered. And then that way you're not taken out of the space where, you lose who you really are.
Yeah. So let's say the breath work doesn't work, okay? And we find ourselves in the thick of an argument or a honking battle, right? Because we tried and we're just still so worked up. How can we de-escalate in that situation, in something so tense? Do you have any tips or tricks for us?
Yeah. The first thing you want to do is start grounding and get curious. So grounding basically means paying attention to any sensations that you're experiencing. Like, what are you seeing around you? You might be seeing someone yelling in your face, right? And well, first of all, I hope you don't get into that situation. You might want to stay in your car, right?
Yes.
But if you were to get out of your car and you find yourself, you just moved and you just didn't even know that you were there, take stock of where you're at. I mean, you're outside, there's probably cars everywhere. And really think about what it is that you could possibly be losing there. Sometimes we forget about what we could be losing in that moment. But grounding is going to be where you want to be. Get curious. How do you know that this other person that, maybe cut you off or maybe is upset doesn't have some other stuff underlying going on that has nothing to do with you?
Yeah. And I think it serves as a good reminder, right? That maybe they have something going on. Maybe you had something going on. But at the end of the day, I also like thinking about worst case scenarios, right? And we've heard on this episode that gun-related incidents are up when it comes to road rage. So worst case scenario, what if that other person has a gun, right? Like, is it worth it in that moment? I think you have to remind yourselves a lot.
Yeah. And that's part of getting curious. You have no idea what can happen. And you have no idea what people are up against. I mean, again, we live in one of the best medical center cities. Like, there are so many hospitals around here. You have no idea if someone is in a medical emergency or perhaps, driving because someone that they love is in cardiac arrest. You don't know. You have no idea. And you have no idea what you could be losing in that moment. And I think if we take it a little bit deeper, rage is something that is emotions that are bubbling up because there's pent up emotions, right? And so if we've got these pent up emotions, we don't have a way to release them like a little steam valve. It's easy to lose yourself in something as, trivial as someone cutting you off or someone speeding or someone driving erratically.
Francisca, one of the things I like doing is preventive work, right? I don't want to be in that moment and be like, oh yeah, what was that drill that we're supposed to do? How about we don't even reach that rage moment, right? Can you give us some breath work on how to prevent this even getting to the point of rage? Like, what can we do before we even drive, right? Because we know it's going to be stressful. Rush hour in Houston hasn't changed in years. It's going to be traffic. It's going to be bad. People are going to cut you off. What can we do to kind of calm our mind before we even get into the car?
Yeah, I love that you said that. A lot of the work that I do is conscious connected breath work, which is an active breathing method that I use to help people release bottled up emotions. And this is really great to help get you stress exposure because this breath work actually puts your body into stress. But we can't do conscious connected breath work here because it is a very intense physiological breath work practice. But what I can teach you is a square breath and 4-7-8 breath, which is really great to use when you're not driving. So yeah, So square breath is really good to get you calm and focused and also energized as well. So it is equal parts breathing. We're going to inhale for a count of 4. We're going to hold for a count of 4. We're going to exhale for a count of 4, and then we're going to hold on the exhale. And you can imagine like a square being drawn. So on the first inhale, you're going to inhale through the nose, 2, 3, 4, and then you're going to hold, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 2, 3, 4. Hold the breath, 2, 3, 4. And then you're going to repeat that. You might even close your eyes here. And I really believe that closing the eyes, and I'm sorry, I got like a little bit more calm and I'm like, wait, where am I? I'm doing a podcast here. But with this breath work practice, it really allows you to get calm, clear-headed, focused, and also energized. And actually, this is a breath work exercise that the Navy SEALs do to get them calm and focused before they even go out and start like a mission.
That's
and
amazing.
I recommend 4 rounds of that before you even get into the car, or even if you're in the car and before you even turn the keys on the ignition.
I love that one. And that's why you should do it with your eyes closed. Remember, don't do it while you're driving. It's a little too late. Don't drive with your eyes closed.
Yeah. You might even do 4, 7, 8 breath, which is an inhale for a count of 4, holding the breath for a count of 7, and exhaling for a count of 8, which I believe is a perfect combination of the first breathing technique I showed you with the extended exhales and the second breathing technique I showed you, which was the square breathing, because it involves the inhales and the breath holds and then the extended exhales. And it's super helpful, again, to get you energized, to get you calm and focused so that your emotions don't spill over on the rest of your drive.
That is perfect. Francisca, that was great. Thank you so much for joining us, for giving us these little tips and tricks and tools to get us a little bit more calm before we hit the roadways. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate being here.
That was Rashi Vats and Francisca Hernandez. You can learn more about both of them with the links in our show notes. And hey, don't go anywhere. In just a second, we've got a segment sponsored by Downtown Houston Plus. Will Fulton is chatting with CEO Christopher Larson about the most dynamic and exciting neighborhood in our city, downtown Houston.
Hey, I'm Will Fulton, Content Director for CityCast, here with Chris Larson, President and CEO of Downtown Houston Plus. Chris, what's going on? How are you today?
Oh, I'm doing great, Will. How are you?
I'm doing really well, and I am so excited to talk to you about downtown Houston. You know, I listen to CityCast every single day, so I know that downtown Houston is absolutely booming. The neighborhood comes up so much when we're making our guides and stuff like that. But in your mind, what makes downtown Houston such an appealing place to be right now?
I think it really starts with, access to great dining, entertainment, the arts, particularly with our theater district. Then, of course, professional sports. Who doesn't love walking to an Astros game or being able to go see the Rockets or the Dash or the Dynamo in person? But a big reason is also just because of people who want a shorter commute. We've got about 150,000 people that work downtown. So, luxurious walk to work. It's a great place. It's connected to transit. It can have a car light lifestyle.
I really love that because I am such a fan of walkable neighborhoods, not needing a car to get to my favorite restaurants or local businesses or even work. What makes downtown Houston so fun and comfortable for exploring on foot?
Our team really keeps downtown super clean. Then we've also just got these amazing parks and green space experiences, whether it's Discovery Green or whether it's the trails along the bayou. Working with Commissioner Ellis, we recently finished 44 murals throughout downtown Houston. So lots of opportunities for art to catch your eye, lots of interesting, unexpected moments. And that just really makes the experience as a pedestrian all the more interesting.
I love that. I'm so glad you mentioned the murals. It is like an open air art gallery. It is so enjoyable to walk through, to take pictures. It's amazing. All right, so I've heard of this downtown office conversion study you completed, looking at ways to turn obsolete office buildings into new residential towers. And there's a new one called Elevate that did just that. Can you talk a little bit more about this idea and concept overall?
The way that people are using office space is different than it was pre-pandemic. And so what we've been exploring is what it would take to help to convert some of that space into future uses. We've been converting buildings in downtown Houston, old office buildings from turn of the century, into hotels. But now it's really the next chapter of really thinking about how we utilize our built space for the most productive possible way. So that's really what the feasibility study looked at. And now we're really looking at how do we facilitate more of these conversions to create more spaces for people.
What does Elevate look like? Like, what are the vibes there?
Elevate is a gorgeous, restoration of a 1960s era office tower. It has been transformed into a beautiful rental residential community.
That is so cool. It is like you are living in a piece of Houston history. I absolutely love that. All right, Chris, well, switching gears a little bit, we all know that housing costs right now are a little expensive all over the country. So I'm wondering if there are options for people with varying budgets in downtown Houston, or even for like students who are going to school in the area.
We've got over 600 units of income restricted affordable housing. So if you're only making, let's say, half of the average salary in Houston, or 3/4, rent can be tiered according to what your income level is.
That's amazing. All right, so I want to close on something a little more fun. All right, picture this. You are taking me to downtown Houston for an afternoon or an evening of fun, and honestly, hopefully food too, because I know there are great restaurants down there. There are a million options. It's going to be hard for you to choose, but where are you taking me? Where are you going to show off the best of downtown Houston?
Okay, so I'm a bit of a history buff, and I think I'd start us at the rooftop of the Post Houston, a beautiful public space, and it's just got the most amazing skyline views. Probably go downstairs then into the food hall at Post HTX. They've just got, an incredible level of international fare, which is really representative of the city of Houston. Then I'd probably say let's walk up to Allen's Landing. Let's see where it all started, where the Allen brothers came up the Buffalo Bayou and then sort of meander over to Market Square Park. And then I'd say we top it off across the street at La Carafe, the oldest bar in Houston, and maybe have a glass of white wine in the afternoon and really experience what Houston was like over 100 years ago. And I think that'd be a good way to experience downtown, at least the north side of our downtown.
That's amazing. We just wrote about La Carafe in our newsletter, Hey Houston. Are you a tour guide, by the way? Do you do tours? Because that was pretty good. I think you could do it.
Hey, I just love this downtown, and there's so many different ways to show it off to friends and family, and I think that's just a small example of the many kinds of adventures that you can have here.
Well, that's amazing. Well, Chris, thank you so much for being here. I loved hearing a little bit more about downtown Houston.
Thanks, Will.
Thanks for listening, everyone. Check out downtownhouston.org to find out more. We'll have a link in our show notes, and we will also have links to all the Downtown Houston Plus social accounts. Trust me, they are a great follow on Instagram. They're always posting really fun stuff. So go follow them. And you know what? Go visit downtown Houston today. Why not? Go take a walk, see some murals, have some fun. All right, bye.
That will do it for today. Thank you for listening, and I hope you learned something new. That's really long. I'm going to redo that.